I'm going to show you how to play the thing just like the top ranked players do, and I pledge to never say, here's the thing, because you've already heard that joke a million times. So here's the stuff we're going to be covering about the thing today. We're going to talk about his versatile playstyles, how to use his abilities properly, what his massive weakness is, and whether or not you can overcome it, and a lot more. I'll be mixing my gameplay footage here along with the best thing players in the world so you can get a complete picture of what he plays like. So here's the most important aspect of the thing you should understand. Yes, he is a vanguard. He is a tank hero. Yeah, he can have a lot of HP, block tons of damage for your team, but like all the Fantastic Four characters in Marvel Rivals, the thing can be played in different ways, and you need to adapt how you play him based on things like your team composition, the enemy team, the map, and just the different situations you can find yourself in during a match that pop up randomly. So here's what that means. If you intend to play the thing and you want to play him well, you're going to need to be comfortable doing very different tasks. This isn't the type of character where every single match you loop the exact same actions or routes over and over. I mean, that could happen in the match itself, but chances are in the next match you'll need to do something different. So here's the two main playstyles that the thing has. First, you can play him as a disruptive frontline tank, though your moment-to-moment actions are going to be very different compared to a shielding character like Doctor Strange, for example. And second, you can also play the thing as a diving or flanking tank, setting up easy eliminations for the rest of your team, or you can prevent the other team from healing effectively. Many tanks in Marvel Rivals are designed to be able to perform multiple duties, and plus, we have so many years of overwatching other hero shooters, and we know that it can sometimes take a long time for a player base to realize all of the utility that a particular class or character might have. So I just want to make it clear that tanks aren't necessarily just bullet sponges. They can do so much more, especially when they're a character like the Thing or Thor. You can do a lot with these characters. So here's the first playstyle we're going to focus on, the more frontline oriented one. If you're playing the Thing in the front line, you're going to need to use cover or coordinate with your teammates to channel healing towards you, because you don't recover health on your own, and you're just a massive target for the other team. Your goal in the front line is to be a huge nuisance, and that means you're going to be using your secondary attack often, which is the Stone Haymaker. It's a charged up punch that gives you a little bit of extra health while you're using it, so this gives you just a little bit more survivability, and because the punch has a little bit of a wait time while it charges, it can catch opponents off guard. Maybe your opponents think they're safe, but by the time you hit them, you actually finish them off, or maybe you lower their health enough to make them want to retreat. Keep in mind that this punch also hits multiple targets, right? So what you're doing as a frontline thing is basically telling the other team, hey guys, you should split up, otherwise I'm gonna rock you with this punch. Get it? Rock you? Stone? Thing? Comedy hour. Anyway, as we all know, splitting up in a game like this is generally a terrible idea. So if you're able to break up those front lines, that's really useful to your team. So here's the other aspect of this playstyle that we need to consider. You need to prevent the other team from breaking your front line or successfully flanking your team. So you should be looking to use your embattled leap ability to quickly jump to your backline being flanked or overwhelmed just in general. You don't necessarily need to finish off a flanker as the Thing, you just need to make them back off or damage them enough for someone else on your team to take them out. If you do this consistently, eventually those flankers or whatever they are, they're going to learn and they're going to stop doing it if it's not effective. Now you might think this is a waste of time and that you're going to lose frontline ground if you do it, but if you don't do it, you're going to lose the frontline ground anyway because nobody is going to heal you while they're being attacked. And besides, you and the teammate you leap to both get a damage resistance buff, and you can always leap back to the front line after helping your supports. So here's the other aspect of this playstyle you need to consider. How are you going to use the Thing's Yancey Street Charge, which gives you a ton of extra health, knocks up opponents, does some damage, and even prevents mobility abilities on the other team? Realistically, you're going to need to use it to set up eliminations for the rest of your team, so maybe using it on lower HP opponents or somebody who's getting to low HP, or sometimes you just need to interrupt what the other team is trying to accomplish. Maybe it's through their abilities, maybe it's through their tactics. And sometimes you just need to use it in short bursts just to give yourself that extra 200 health, increasing your survivability, making it so much harder to get rid of you. So you might be buying space for your team, you might be buying time for your team. That 200 extra health is awesome. And of course, sometimes the stars will align in the way that the other team lines up or how they're surrounding the objective, and you can run a circle around them or like a figure 8 pattern around them, and you knock them up, you buy more time for your team, and usually this is easier to pull off on defense usually because you're defending the objective. The thing just loves to knock up other people, it's true, and keep in mind that when you're in that Yancey street charge, you're basically more or less an immovable object. No one's really going to stop you from doing that. You can run into another thing that's also doing it, and then you guys kind of just like kiss each other, but you don't really have to worry about that too much because you're not necessarily going to be targeting the other thing with your charge unless you want to stop their movement abilities. So here's the problem with this playstyle though. When you consider your screen constantly shaking and the thing's field of view being quite annoying when you're spamming your charged punch, and when you factor in the general chaos and the visual clutter of the front lines just across the board and how it keeps getting worse with every new character that has fancier animations, it becomes really hard to tell what the hell is going on. If you don't already have a great game sense or eye for detail, realistically, you're not going to realize when you should be leaping backwards or using your charge ability. If you're grouped up with friends or on a team with good comms, you can coordinate easily and nullify this issue. But if you're in solo queue with no comms, this is going to be a major problem. Also, just like with most tanks in solo queue, you're kind of playing at the mercy of your healers. Plus, you're such a massive frontline target that a frontline thing is constantly feeding ultimate charge to the other team. So if you or your team is ineffective, you actually contribute to the other team snowballing against you. The solution to this playstyle's problems is basically just coordination and communications with your teammates. But that's really tough if you're a solo player, which the majority of players are, including myself most of the time. We'll talk about how we can work around this a little bit later, but I just wanted to give you a quick reminder. Don't forget to use Invisible Woman's team up shield as often as you can. So if Invisible Woman is on your team and you're the thing, you can just get like a nice little boost to your survivability and your health. Takes no effort. You just press one button to get it, but it's really easy to forget. So just try to keep that in mind. So here's the second major playstyle for the thing. You can use your Yancey street charge to constantly attack the other team from the side or from the back, disrupting their healers and potentially even eliminating them, and just generally forcing the other team to look backwards in order to deal with you. The charge does put 900 health on you if you start from max, and you're as close to immovable as possible when you're doing it, but of course, you need to plan your routes carefully and know the map layout, because if you don't, you'll have an entire team focus fire on you and you'll melt down in about 2 seconds, maybe 3 seconds. So if you're playing like this diver or flanker, you want to disrupt the backline and then leap back to your front line with your damage resistance leap ability. Depending on the situation though, you might even be able to sprint back with your charge, and that way you can knock up the backline and the front line. Don't forget, the thing loves to knock people up. It's true. It's damn true. Just keep in mind that this is kind of situational. So if you can knock up the backline and the front line, that's great, but you don't want to just sprint into a huge hostile crowd and get absolutely blasted. So here's the great thing about this playstyle. You'll catch a lot of people by surprise and you'll expose a lot of healers who don't know how to deal with someone diving them. They might run backwards, which just further isolates them, gets you an easy elimination. And look, you might even be able to destroy multiple healers like this, or at least chase them so far back that your teammates just gain a major advantage in their fight because they're fighting against opponents that aren't being healed. And once you get used to your charge and maybe practice it a bit, you can spin in ways that result in you knocking opponents up in the air multiple times during one charge, or at the very least, your presence makes them retreat a bit, which is still good for your team. Plus, don't forget, like I said before, if you have that team up ability from Invisible Woman, you can give yourself extra shields and have even more survivability this way. Also, if you do find yourself attacking the backline and then being able to transition into attacking the front line from behind, using your ultimate here is such a clutch move because the other team A won't expect it, and B, they won't see it coming, so it will really help your team get easy eliminations. So here's the downside of this playstyle. It's even more teammate reliant than the first one we talked about. There is no point in you diving or flanking if your teammates don't know that you're doing it, or if they don't know how to capitalize on that. Honestly, I would go as far as to say this playstyle is an absolute nightmare to pull off in solo queue. Sure, in low skill level lobbies you can kind of dominate with it, but that won't really teach you anything about the team aspect of the game, and it's going to kind of expose you at higher levels. Once again, the solution to this problem is coordination and communication with your team, but once again, that's really difficult to do in solo queue. So here's the main weakness of the thing, and it's just that he's not a character that lends himself well to solo queue. And I know that most of you watching are solo players like me. I'm definitely not saying it's impossible or anything like that. I'm just saying that it's difficult to use him effectively when you have to rely on strangers for that effectiveness. If you want to play the thing, but you see after the first round your teammates aren't really responding to what you're doing, you're probably better off switching to another hero. The thing is the type of hero that is very easy to use, but using him effectively is really difficult because you're not just relying on yourself. So here's the further downside of this. When you play a tank like Doctor Strange poorly, yeah, you don't protect your team, you feed, and you leave massive gaps that can be easily exploited by the other team. But when you play the thing poorly, or when your team isn't coordinated enough, the same thing happens, but worse. Chances are, let's say you're probably piloting the thing in a correct and positive way after seeing this video or maybe other videos as well. But if your team isn't capitalizing on that, you're just feeding way more endless ultimates to the other team because of your survivability and giant size. You've got a huge target on your back, on your front, on your ass, on your head, everywhere. So in this kind of scenario, not only is the other team getting all of the usual benefits of their team eliminations and spacing, but they also get to use their ultimates way more often, which further snowballs against your team. So here's the problem we're facing. We have this character who is great at what he does, and who synergizes wonderfully with many other heroes, especially with his Fantastic Four family. He can do so much, he can trade off on different roles, but most of you will never get to have that experience because most of you are playing solo. You sort of need to be in high rank lobbies in order for your solo teammates to really know what they're doing when you play the thing and so that you can coordinate with them better. But to get to those high rank lobbies, you probably can't use the thing to begin with because they won't get you to those high rank lobbies. You'll probably just escape the lowest possible ranks. But then if you're playing in really high rank lobbies and you're not really practiced in the character you want to use, which is the thing here, you're probably not going to use him out of not wanting to lose too much or derank or let your teammates down. So here's the solution to breaking this cycle, and this might sound silly, but it's going to work. So when you have a good match and solid teammates, just add them as friends and invite them to group up. You'll get 1 or 2 people to group with sometimes following a great match. You can play a few games with them, and hey, maybe you never see each other again, or maybe you play for a long time to come. Whatever outcome happens, it's totally fine. And if they don't accept, it's not a big deal at all. You just move on. The next time you have a great game, you add those people too. You can add people from the scoreboard at the end of a match or from your recent players list. And yeah, of course, you can always just keep soloing or practicing in quick play as well. But hey, this is a video game. It's supposed to be fun. Don't torture yourself. This is not supposed to be, a second job or whatever. So here's the deal with the thing's clobber in time ultimate ability. No matter what your playstyle is, a tactical use of your ultimate is gonna change the outcome of a team fight. It makes opponents stunned and throws them up in the air, so naturally this ultimate synergizes beautifully with pretty much any offensive ability. If you can freeze an entire frontline or backline or maybe a character that's really popping off, you are literally gifting your teammate free targets while also inflicting damage on them yourself. When you find yourself near or at 100% charge for your ultimate and you're looking to use it, just make sure to ping your teammates a few times so that they know it's going to be happening soon so that they can prepare if they're paying attention to begin with. If they're not paying attention, whatever, it's not going to work anyway. Also, I see a lot of people using the thing's ultimate at point blank range, and that's fine if you need to do it in the moment, but I just want to remind you that it does have a range of up to 18 meters at launch. It's not something you have to be up close for. Just watch out for elevation changes because that completely messes it up. So here's the question we gotta ask. Should you play the thing? Well, there's several layers to this question. First of all, are you looking to have fun or are you looking to win? While technically these two things are not mutually exclusive, they often can be, so you need to be honest with yourself. If you love the thing and you just love being him, then yeah, absolutely play the character you're interested in. Being invested in your favorite character, it's gonna naturally make you be a little bit better at the game, pay more attention, you're gonna be a little bit more locked in, and you might just have more fun that way. And I mean, of course, if you have a coordinated team or just good comms, the thing can be both a fun pick and a winning pick. But if you're the type of player who will stop at nothing to get those wins and you're playing primarily solo, well, I can't really recommend the thing to you. Chances are, after the initial domination at the very early ranks, you'll just be frustrated or upset with the experience until you get to a high enough rank where your teammates can actually work with the thing. But again, you're probably not getting to those levels from solo queuing the thing. Now, of course, we're not talking in absolute terms here, so you can't just generalize an entire experience for millions of players. I am sure there are some sick solo thing players on YouTube or in the in-game leaderboards, but what I'm saying here is that this isn't the norm. If you're a solo player, you shouldn't expect this to be your baseline experience with the hero. So here's the questions I pose to you. What do you think of the thing? What's your experience with him been like? Do you think he's going to be a staple character at higher levels? Or do you think he's one of those like, flavor of the month type of deals? Let me know in the comments below. It's been really interesting to see the Fantastic Four in Marvel Rivals so far. They're so versatile, they synergize so well with other characters and within themselves, but it does come at the cost of their solo queue performance for the most part. They really are team-based characters, which obviously makes sense given their comic history and given that, hey, we're playing a team game after all. Thank you so much for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you want to see more Rivals videos, and I'll see you next time.